Hey everyone, and welcome to this special presentation on the Bros CB. I am Connor, and one of the hosts of the channel, and today I'm going to be talking about the production journey of my new film, Eyes on You. If it is not known, I am the director of the film, and I also worked on other departments such as editing and cinematography and writing. And my films usually consist of small groups of people, usually my friends and I, so many of us are working together in the different departments to make the vision come to life. And that is exactly what I'm going to be talking about with you guys here today. To give you a brief intro before I move forward, Eyes on You is a film set before the events of Ghostface kills the Bros, CB, and it consisted of a cast that was roughly about the same size as the first movie. We filmed for about 17 days, and a total of around 97 hours was spent shooting the film. Some major changes that were made between this production and the first film is that it doesn't take place completely at night, which is pretty new compared to Ghostface, and there was a lot of new filming equipment involved, and the script was more than twice as long compared to the first movie. And speaking of the script, that is actually the first thing I'm going to be talking about is pre-production. So before the summer started, I knew that I wanted to make a new film, and the idea sprouted not too long after my synth video essay was made. And there was a lot of short stories I have written that I could choose from, but instead I thought it would be better to make a new story and base it off of one of the biggest things that I'm creeped out by, which is stalkers. And making a story about the crime of stalking is something that is not really new and is present in a lot of my horror stories, but it was never really the sole focus. And I know a lot of people, including myself, who have had experiences from mild to severe with people who were obsessive lunatics, so I had a lot of material I could pull from to write budget-friendly scenes. And with that, I started to work on a story. And one of the things I thought about was that many of my friends had graduated high school, and that had me thinking about my life after high school and my college experience. Really how different it is and how much things have changed. And unfortunately, I graduated in the year 2020, so in a way, I envied a lot of the other people for many of the experiences that were taken from me due to the coronavirus. But I think now more than ever, I have been able to make up for a lot of it. I wanted to make a story about the transition from high school to college, but add a horror twist to it. So in a way, it is very symbolic of how I felt when I got out of high school. The stalker of the story would act as a symbol for evil trying to ruin everyone's fun. In context of my experience, the villain is Larry, is COVID-19. And then boom, that was pretty much my idea. And after some modifications, the story would follow a protagonist fresh out of high school that is just trying to enjoy his summer break in peace without the worries of how different college will be. But a random stalker walks into his life and turns what was supposed to be a fun summer into a fight for survival. Simple, easy to follow, and a clear conflict of good versus evil. Who doesn't love that? And personal connection to it, I think, makes it all the better to influence. Now, I want to talk about the cast. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of people. Pretty much all of them have a multitask during the production. Half of the faces you see here have never been a part of a production like this. Well, a few are veterans from previous productions, so most of the people involved were pretty much new to this. And to further push the story of the movie behind the scenes, I made sure to add many fun scenes for the film in order to give the actual high school grads of the cast one of the best summers they will remember by being a part of the film. And I think they all agreed that it was one of the best things about their summer, and this had me reflecting deeply for a bit because I was really happy to have given my friends an opportunity to be a part of something and have a ton of fun, which was something that was really missing for me after I graduated. Once I had all of our people gathered, the first cast meeting took place about 1 week before we started production, and Luke, who after some previous discussions over the phone, he joined and showed up a complete stranger to everyone, and quickly became a part of the family after the first day of shooting a week later. I think it really showed that production would have a deep impact on everyone who was involved pretty early on. And before I move on to day one, I'm just gonna glide over this slide briefly. This camera, I swear to God, gave me a hell of a lot of frustration before we started shooting. And the building of it involved a lot of trial and error in order to see what parts worked and what didn't. Even when we started shooting, it wasn't complete, but by the time the second day came, it was fully built as it needed to be. The camera had a lot of new parts and rigs that certainly made it feel like you were carrying around a bag of potatoes, and it appeared like a professional setup. The upgrades costed around $1,000, which accounted for pretty much 75% of the entire budget of this film. So as you can see right here, here's the first upgrade, second upgrade, and then the final completion of the camera, which is significantly different compared to the first film. Alright, let's talk about the first day. If I had to sum up what this day was about, it was all about cast bonding. And everyone was excited, and we had made significant progress, but for being on schedule, I wasn't exactly sure if it was enough, but we all had fun nonetheless. There were a lot of issues with the camera, and we were still trying to get used to the new microphones, but once we got it figured out, the scene at the track was easily one of the best parts of the day. In order to give everybody a taste of the camera, I passed off the device to Christian and Luke so that they can get creative with their shots, under my supervision, of course. Thomas and Caleb were the main focus for the scenes that day, and while the first day was fun, it was also very exhausting and one of the longest days, going on at about 10 hours of filming inside and outside. So here are some more photos from the first day. As you can see, we mainly shot at Thomas's house for half the day, and the rest of the day was spent at the track. And like I said, it was a lot of fun, and we got a ton of fun videos there that will be nostalgic, I think, 5 years from now. Day 2 marked first time shooting with Gary, who is our actor playing as Larry. And as expected, he does an awesome job playing a creepy character, but unfortunately my shoot with him had to be cut short due to incoming rain. And day 3 was a special day because it was Caleb and I all day for 8 hours, and we filmed a lot of his scenes as well as some of the ending. Originally we were supposed to shoot for only like 5 hours, but Caleb never once complained, so I'd like to give a big shout out to you, bro. You did an epic job. And Caleb and I had a lot of talks throughout the day, and never once did it ever feel like work. It was a great day, just the two of us hanging out. We got chased by 2 wasps while at the park, and when we were filming a dialogue scene, a beetle plopped on the table next over. If that happened in the frame where we were shooting, I think that would have landed in Caleb's food. Here's a couple of photos that were taken on these 2 days, or some of the best ones, I'd say. As you can see, yes, Gary is great at playing a menacing villain, and we got this awesome shot right here, pretty much the money shot, maybe. So day 4, and there is a very specific reason why I chose to put a cow with flies on this slide, so just get used to the itching. I'll move to the next slide here in a sec. But when it comes to why I decided to call this day the Thirsty Day, I think it speaks for itself. It was a very hot and humid day. It was nasty and buggy, and we had a lot of issues with the camera regarding the audio and getting things shot, but we pushed through it and got a lot done. There was a wooded area we shot at for part of the day, and this was easily one of the worst experiences during production. So when you walked into these woods, you were basically this poor cow that you see here on the screen being all bit up by mosquitoes, and Caleb approximated at least 20 massive mosquitoes covering Luke while we were filming at one point there in those woods. And when I say it was miserable, it was miserable there, but we also got some of the most beautiful shots from the set, if not the best shots, and thanks a lot to Luke, who photographed most of the pictures that were taken during the production. Another fun fact, while we shot the basketball court scene that day, we had a lot of extras who were there, and they were cool being a part of the film. So they ended up being featured in the background for a scene. In the middle there, you can see that's where we were shooting at the basketball court. Unfortunately, the people that were there, they didn't want to. Well, I guess I couldn't get pictures with them, but I did offer that they could be a part of the credits if they wanted to, but they never got back to us on it. Day 5 marked the first day shooting with Rita, Doug, and Ethan. Ethan has 2 roles for this movie. He plays as Larry for a small part, and as himself for another scene. Rita and Doug play as themselves like pretty much everybody else, and after a week prior to this day, I had already known that I wanted to add more scenes to the movie, and I knew I could give Rita and Doug a scene, so they could experience the magic of filmmaking as well. Much of the pharmacy staff have wanted to see Rita in the movie, and bringing her and Doug to be a part of the franchise was a great opportunity to bring more people in for the fun. And not only does their scene contribute to the creepy atmosphere, but this was also the first day where we got some unsettling yet very beautiful shots with the drone, and of course we had to have some fun with that. So as you can see here, it's just a few photos from the night. I can't really show you guys that much because this scene is pretty funny and scary, so I don't want to spoil it too much. And I would also like to give a shout out to Doug because he probably has the smallest role in the entire film, but he took a lot of the photos that you will see in the next day when we come back to the Bowjacks. Day 6, this was probably one of the most grueling days. It lasted for about 13 and a half hours from morning until midnight. Everyone came and left at different times besides Thomas, who stuck by for the entire shift, so shout out to you, bro, for making it through that entire day. We did some of the most dangerous stunts, like filming and moving cars at high speeds and taking some risk with the drone by filming at night, and it was hard to see at times where the drone was at, and because of our inexperience with it, we were afraid of it breaking or something happening to it, but thankfully it was okay. And we also had some spooky encounters while we were filming the car chase scene. Christian started to hallucinate a little girl in a white dress at the beginning of the scene, and upon inspection of the footage as I was editing, I never saw a little girl. So that was some spooky fun, I guess, from the set. I guess you could call it a haunted set. Another thing that happened towards the beginning of the day was we made a run to McDonald's to get food in order to keep the continuity of another scene that Caleb and I shot the other day. And I will not forget this, but Thomas embarrassed me in a drive-thru by acting like a spoiled, hungry child when I pulled up to the window. And the McDonald's worker handed me the food, and loudly in the back, Thomas yelled at me, "Where's my food at?" And immediately my cheeks turned red as the McDonald's worker looked at me soulless, and not a single word was spoken on the way to the park where we were going to film the scene. But I think it was pretty evident that I was pissed. Fuck you, Thomas. Anyway, this was also the first day that Sean was brought onto set, who is Gary's brother. So he got to experience some of what filmmaking is like. He's right there at the bottom. You can kind of see him there in the corner where we're shooting the car chase scene. Alright, day 7, really briefly, I want to go over this day because it didn't last that long. But this was definitely one of the shortest days of shooting. It was just Thomas and I. We shot for like 1 hour. There were no photos. We had to move pretty quickly. We got through at least 3 pages of the script, which was astonishing as it can take a long time to get through that much. Okay, and day 8 was one of the few days where we only focused on a single scene. It was a major scene starring Luke, Christian, and Gary, and the final result ended up being about 5 minutes long, which is really good for the length that we shot, which was 5 hours. It took place at a church, and I can't really go further from there as it gets into spoilers. And here's some more photos from the night. There's not a whole lot of spoilery stuff, but I was pretty excited at one point when we were shooting this scene. We got some pretty cool shots. I'm not sure if people will really notice it in the final result. We had a lot of fun shooting this, even though it went on pretty late into the night. Okay, pretty briefly, day 9 marked the halfway point of shooting, and it was pretty laid back and pretty much a break day. We filmed a few scenes, but not a whole lot, and we primarily focused on getting some scenes at Luke's house. Luke's dog and cat also made a cameo, and that was pretty much it for today. We also played with the drone, and Ethan showed up later to film a small scene. The cast wasn't really sure why certain scenes were being filmed at this point, as I would stay a little bit later into production, trusting the director. Alright, so back to the Bowljacks. I can't talk a whole lot about this day. Filming the second half of this scene was a lot more fun than the first day, and it involved a lot more action. I can say that it was very thrilling and fun to watch as I was behind the camera. Here's some more photos. Another thing I'd like to point out is that Rita and Doug's cat Faye makes a cameo, which you will see in the final result. Got Ethan being followed by me with the camera there. Had a lot of fun. Days 11, 12, 13, and 14. I'm going to speed run this because these were very work heavy focus days, so everyone was not very interested in hanging out on set and was more focused on getting the movie done at this point. As a director, I started to become more harsh and aggressive to push forward the progress. So, starting with day 11, we filmed a lot of colorful scenes and played with some fake blood. That's all I get in with that. Day 12 was when we filmed another big sequence in the garage and got some stuff filmed at Luke's house. And there was one shot in particular that took at least 20 takes in order to get right. So day 13, we filmed at parks and outdoors, injecting new scenes for Luke and Christian. So again, another extension of the script. And then on day 14, it was all about Ethan and filming his one big scene in the entire film. The involvement of characters from Ghostface Kills the Bro CB connect the two films subtly, but as you'll see in the film, there will be a couple of key scenes that foreshadow and connect the films more deeply. And I would also say pay attention to some of the dialogue, because there is a couple of references and things in the background, as you'll see in the composition of scenes, that connect this film to Ghostface. Alright, day 15, we had only 4 scenes left at this point, and 2 of them were the biggest scenes of the film, and they were significantly violent. So day 15 was intended to be the final day of shooting with the main cast, but despite shooting until 3 in the morning, we still were not complete. I'd say that the biggest enemy of the shoot now was crankiness and tiredness and frustration. It was extremely difficult to shoot at night, and many of the struggles at nighttime is that the camera often produces grainy footage and the lighting had to be adjusted with each shot that was taken, and of course it was hard to try and keep scenes from looking like a studio. So we got creative and used different lights, or we tried to use natural lighting to our advantage, and some of the scenes were easier to shoot than others. Okay, another notable thing from this night is that Christian revealed that he has a fear of bugs. So you can see right there in the corner, I'm holding a cicada. Caleb's taking a photo of it. That wasn't too long after I was chasing Christian around with that cicada and he was screaming. Okay, and finally we got day 16 and 17, which marked the end of our journey at this long process. So day 16 was the shortest shoot, lasting only 45 minutes, and it was just my cousin Annie and I for the scene. I'd like to give a shout out to you for making a return to the movies, and she had a really big scene in this movie that will be sure to get a lot of the audience excited when they see the final product. Alright, and on day 17, this was the actual official last day of shooting. And this was yet another tiring and exhausting day. It lasted about 6 hours and we were done at probably around 2 o'clock in the morning. Everyone was super cranky and was out of it, but we got through it, and man, did it feel good to finally have it all done. And the cast celebrated by taking photos and sharing their excitement for what was to come. And so as you can see here, I kind of did a little photo shoot for Thomas and Caleb. They wanted to get some final photos because this night was like 2 days before Thomas had to go out to Hayes for college, so we got some send-off photos. Unfortunately, a lot of the stuff that was taken that night is kind of spoilery, so I can't really get into it much. Alright, so post-production, I'm going to go over this briefly as well. I will say that it was easier to do at times than others as far as the editing. Many scenes were familiar and I knew how to do, but there was also some new things not seen before in Eyes on You that pushed the boundaries that Ghostface didn't. There were certain action scenes, some dialogue scenes, and call scenes that were especially challenging. After it was all over, I learned a lot through trial and error, knowing better how to improve action scenes in the future. And because of the final runtime of the film, which ended up being an hour and 38 minutes, I still can't believe that, big plans were considered for a premiere. So here are the 2 official posters that were made. There is also a new one that was made for Ghostface Kills the Bros CB. Those will also be sold at the premiere for $10 each. So these 2 and Ghostface are being printed at the moment of this recording. So once the film is screened and is available for everyone to watch, the question is probably what is going to be the next step. And well, I will tease right now that there is one more movie that I want to do for the franchise of Larry and Ghostface, which, if you don't know, are both connected. The next planned film will be announced towards the end of Eyes on You, and with that, there is also some planned radical changes that I want to implement to the Bros channel in order to push it forward and expand the scope of what can be done with this channel. From gaming videos to resurrecting old shows and adding new ones with the cast members in which you will see in the movie, I have no doubt that the Bros CB will be moving in a positive direction. I will also be collabing with fellow YouTube channels in order to plan out bigger and more fun videos. A few things some ideas that I had was that I'd be doing a building show with Ethan and I, and there is a show I want to do called The Cinephiles, which would feature Luke and Christian since they go to see movies a lot. And then I also wanted to do a show with Caleb and I. Not really sure on exactly what I want to call it yet, but the idea now is that I want to do some kind of like motivation videos or just talk about some deeper topics that are maybe not very comfortable to talk about. Mix of motivation and some wisdom is the idea I'm thinking about right now with his show. And then of course bringing back some of the older shows like Nasty Sodas and Cooking with the Bros CB, Cooking with the Killer Writer, and E10. Alright, so that wraps up the video on the production journey of Eyes on You. Be sure to subscribe to the Bros CB and leave a comment for more fun content. Nasty Soda 7 should be coming at some point in the near future, so if you're a fan of weird challenges with food, be sure to check out the rest of the Nasty Sodas franchise. And with that, enjoy the premiere of Eyes on You, which is releasing on October 12th, 7:45 Central Time. See you, broskies.
Whoever this is, I think he's been watching us for a long time.
You know what they say about crazy people.
I'll cut them up and turn them into skin suits so we can